Hello, world of the internet. My name is Simon Miller, and welcome to a very delayed next episode of Miller's Musings. I've just whacked my microphone as I tried to grab my mouse, but still, that's okay. I'm sorry we've been away. Life. I mean, what an excuse to use on a series such as this, but just life. Sometimes life gets in the way, and you've got to roll with the punches. So that's kind of what we did. However, if you've never watched Miller's Musings before, it is a series of vlogs, I guess, for lack of a better term, where I just talk about things to do with mental health or sadness or happiness or, tying it all in, life. Because I'm very lucky to have somewhat of a small platform, and a lot of people get in touch, kind of just doing a summary here. And they say, Simon, you're a very positive chap on these videos. You seem like you've got your shit together. Not true. Nobody's got their shit together. Like we talked about before, perception is reality. Everyone has up days and down days and bad days and good days. However, there was some, I don't know, just the interaction and the communication I was getting it just spurred me on to do these videos, and I got a lot of good feedback with people saying that they got something out of them, which obviously speared me up even more. And here we are, right now, to do another one. Now, you would have seen by the title today, I want to talk about loneliness. And the reason I want to talk about loneliness is because over the last few weeks, a lot of people have got in touch and said, Simon, can you talk about loneliness? I was like, I do my best. Now, the concept of being lonely is actually a very strange one in many ways, because depends how you look at it, right? Because some people, and I'm certainly, I fall into this category, are perfectly fine spending time in their own company. And that doesn't mean they're not sociable. That doesn't mean I don't want to be sociable and see people. Of course I do. However, when I am by myself and I've got time to get stuff done, or I'm just working off my own clock or whatever, I'm all right with that. I'm cool. I can settle down. Some days better than others. I'm sure there's some days where there are some days where I'm like, okay, maybe I feel a little bit isolated today or whatever. But mostly I can do it. And there are some people that just need company all the time, and that's kind of where the blurring of the lines of loneliness comes from. Because not nobody, I'm sure there are some people, but I mean what I'm trying to get at here is that loneliness is two things. It's a physical thing, but it's also an emotional thing. Or at least there's kind of a disparity between the two. Because you can be alone physically, but not feel alone emotionally, right? Like right now, I'm sitting in this house by myself. I am technically alone, but I don't feel lonely right now. And I think that's where the disconnect comes from. And a lot of people feel this way on sort of special days, so Valentine's Days, Christmas, birthdays, on a day that is meant to be a social thing or has some certain connotation where, people are getting together. I think that's where these feelings kind of, maybe they raise up a little bit more, where people feel like, well, I should be doing something, and yet I'm not. Now I feel a little bit isolated, and I feel a little bit alone. In the sense of how you counter that, I don't really know if there is a specific answer. Well, there's no specific answer for any of this stuff. However, when it comes to being lonely or feeling lonely, I think you need to tap into what that feeling actually is, because it can change drastically depending on your mood or depending on your situation. Let's say, for example, you've been in a long-term relationship and then that relationship breaks up. All of a sudden, you are going to feel lonely, but I think the main reason you're going to feel lonely is because your routine has been utterly shattered, right? Hit my mic again. You're used to hearing from that person. You're used to seeing that person. You're used to having plans with that person. So let's say when the first Saturday rolls around and you don't have plans with that person, you're going to be like, well, what do I do? What do I do? And your body is going to be sending certain chemicals to your brain and all that kind of stuff, saying this feels different. And I'm sure you liked what you did on the Saturday of the weekends when you got together with your partner. And yeah, you probably are going to feel alone because all of a sudden you need to adapt to a new routine. And that can be really hard. A, it can be really hard to take stock of. B, it can be really hard to accept. And as we've said before, acceptance is a major key with all of these things. But also, it's going to make you feel sad, right? And that can lead you down a path to anxiety, depression, or whatever else as you try and get over it. And that's why I think awareness is really important. And when you get into these kind of situations, it is important, as we always say, to reach out and try and talk to someone. And just doing that, especially when we're talking about this category, is going to then, hit back at the fact that you're feeling lonely because you reach out for a friend. And when a friend reaches back and he says, talk to me, or I've been there, or I can help you, or whatever, then all of a sudden, you may still feel lonely, but there hopefully will be something deep within inside you that will be like, well, I'm not lonely because I reached out to this person and they reached back. On a more kind of general level, if nothing's really kicked it off and you just feel, like, you're on your own, I think it's probably in those situations best to try and take stock of either, again, what you need to do to rectify that, or maybe there are other things in your life that, because you can be talking to friends, family, and whoever and still feel lonely. It's not like, again, it's not just a physical thing. You can have that something inside of you. But I think you then need to tap in and figure out what that is. Like most people say, in your gut, in your sort of spiritual gut, we'll call it for lack of a better term, there is a void that some people need to fill it with. For some people, it's a family. For some people, it's a successful job. For some people, it's fame. For some people, it could be one of 1,000 things. It could be passionate projects they want to throw themselves into. The point being, loneliness isn't just it is a state of mind, but it's not just a thing. That's a terrible use of words. It's more to it than that. I genuinely believe that loneliness is your body telling you, okay, something needs to change, or we're missing something. That's a better way to put it. We're lacking something. And trying to figure out what that thing is really important, because I would imagine a large proportion or percentage of people think it must be a relationship or a partner or finding love or doing something like that, but it may not necessarily be the case, because you then may be able to get into a relationship and be like, I still feel the same way. And then it comes down to all the stuff we've talked about before, which is why in these situations, it's really good to sort of deep dive within yourself and look internally to try and figure out what it is you need to be emotionally stable. Is a terrible word, because it sounds like, I'm not saying being emotionally unstable is bad. I think maybe when it comes to emotions, we all are a bit unstable because they are emotions. But it's that whole thing that we talked about before where, your happiness is nobody else's responsibility. Your happiness is your responsibility, and you need to make sure that you make yourself happy and not try and get that from anyone else. Doesn't mean other people can't make you happier or add to your life. They absolutely can. But I don't think there's anything out there, be that, again, money, jobs, whatever, that is going to fill that hole until you figure out what it is that you need, because it is up to you and it is down to the individual. And that does suck. You want there to be a magic pill, and talking about it helps, of course. I'm not saying you shouldn't do that. But I'm saying that maybe the next time you do feel a little bit down in the dumps because, again, you feel alone or whatever, it may be worth just to take a minute, sit back, maybe do something like meditation, something just to calm you down, because of course that can lead to anxiety. Absolutely it can. And just try and figure out, why do I feel this way, and what do I need to not feel this way? Now again, it's not a light switch. You're not going to ping that to your brain the first time your brain goes, oh well, I've been waiting for you to ask. It's a journey, as all these things are. But given that the question was, how do I deal with loneliness, or how do you think somebody else should deal with loneliness, that would be my gut reaction, ironically. But it doesn't mean that it's easy. It doesn't mean it can't lead to other things. However, I would implore you to remember that you're not alone. Nobody's alone. Even if you want to talk to me, you can talk to me. I'm not saying I'm not a medical professional by any stretch of the imagination. But even leaving a comment on a YouTube video or doing a tweet, I think that's why the internet is really good. So I'm a big wrestling fan. I saw a picture or a tweet the other day for Samoa Joe. He's a mental health advocate. And I know a lot of people, just knowing that someone like Samoa Joe, this big, badass, cool wrestler, is supportive of mental health causes, it gives you a bit of hope and it gives you a bit of inspiration. And maybe it's even the pickup you need to get back on an important path. And I think that's the same when you're sitting in your bed or in your lounge or whatever and you feel like, oh, I feel so alone. I think it's those little moments that can actually make the difference sometimes, and certainly make you realize that you're probably not alone. I'm not going to say 100% you're not, because I would never dare to judge or assume on somebody else's situation. However, yeah, I think it's your body telling you something, right? And I think if we could all, it would be nice if the whole world in general would allow people to have a bit more time to figure this stuff out. But hopefully at least something like this can give you that time, or at least give you that inclination to look inside and think, okay, well, why do I feel lonely? And also give yourself a break as well. Let's say you have just broken up with a partner. That probably is why you feel lonely. It's okay to feel lonely. It's okay to feel sad. It's okay to feel anxious. It's okay to feel depressed. There's loads of different types of depression. There's something called a reactive depression, which is where if someone breaks up with you, you fall into a slump and you feel like you were depressed because you are, but eventually you do get out of it. And then, of course, there's clinical depression and all that kind of stuff as well. But don't get me wrong, when you're in that reactive depression, it's going to be just as bad as any form of depression, because you're feeling depressed and you may struggle to get out of bed, you may be eating junk food, all these things which then build up. But try not to beat yourself up. Like, life is hard. And we all go through struggles, and sometimes it's not easy to deal with. And if you are struggling to deal with something and it is representing itself, in this feeling of feeling alone, there's a sentence for you. That's okay. And I know we say that a lot, but it is. And acceptance and understanding that, I think, goes a long way to making this stuff a bit better. So I always click it on the clock. We're coming up to about 10 minutes. So I will underline it there. We will come back with these weekly things, because people do seem to enjoy them. I do apologize, I've been away for a while. Like, share, subscribe, leave a comment below. I don't usually say these on these videos, but I will this time, just because some people ask. All of this is supported by patreon.com//Simon316. Don't have to give anything to that whatsoever, but all my personal projects are supported by very nice people who do support me on there. The reason I want to bring it up mostly is because a lot of the questions and a lot of the feedback I get for this do come off that Patreon. So I thought I'd throw that out there anyway. There's no obligation to give anything. I'm not doing this for money. I need money to live. And the more I get, the easier it makes this stuff. But that isn't the be all and end all. I genuinely care and I'm passionate about mental health stuff. And I thought this is, like I said before, a tiny way to give back. So I'm going to give back. So stay strong, take care of yourself, and I'll see you next week.